Hey, good evening and welcome to the Power of Now. Tonight, we want to ask you to bear with us. We are having a little bit of technical difficulty, um, which seems to be apropos to anytime we try to do a live session. But tonight, Coach Darren is going to be coming to you from his I Am Well platform through the Power of Now to share some very useful, helpful information on ultra processed foods and sugar. I believe he's going to split it into two sessions for us so that we can. Good afternoon. Good evening, Doc. Good afternoon. I believe he's going to split it into two sessions because it's going to be a lot of information and it's something that we really, really need, especially to my Micah 7 members, Micah 7 Ministries members, as we prepare our bodies to go on our fast next month. And fasting is a very serious, oh, absolutely, Doc. Thank you for requesting it. It's our absolute pleasure. As we know, fasting is a necessity. It's actually one of the top three things as followers of Christ that we need to absolutely partake in. Coach, I'm getting some feedback. Yeah. Darren just popped in. So I'm going to go on mute, but Darren is going to take over. And Darren, I'm looking at your lap.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
All right. So Darren is really going to take over and give us some really helpful information on what the impacts of ultra processed foods and sugar actually does to our bodies, not just short term, but over the long term, where you might not feel the effects immediately, but long term impact is really detrimental to our health and wellness, our health and well being. So, good evening, Sister Tiffany. Good evening, Sister Grandy. So, Coach, are you ready? Listen, we want this to be an engaging session, and Coach Darren is going to do the presenting, and I'm going to monitor the chat. So please ask as many questions as. Good afternoon, Pastor. Ask as many questions as you need to ask. Coach is more than happy to facilitate the responses, and hopefully you walk away more empowered than when you came.
Okay.
All right, Coach, just shift your camera a little bit. There we go. All right, Coach, take it away. I'm going on mute.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Apologize again. Everything was working fine all day long. I actually signed on at 8 o'clock. Camera froze, and then it just continued acting up from there. But it looks like I'm up and running, and hopefully, everything will flow smoothly. As Coach Mitchell said, tonight I'm going to talk about ultra-processed foods. And I just want to, for a little bit of clarification, like I said, I'm coming from the I Am Well platform. And the I Am Well platform was the original platform that I did my health and wellness content. And basically, it was a platform where I invited other people to come, talk, like nutritionists, dietitians, so forth and so on. The difference between I Am Well and say Inside Outside on Wellness Wednesday is that I Am Well really focuses on some of the details regarding the health and wellness. Whereas what we talk about on Wednesday is really some of the things that you can do. So it is a difference. They're two different platforms. It's not really a replication. All right, so like tonight we're going to talk about ultra processed foods. And what I want to do, I want to tell you what they are, why they are bad, how to spot them, why they're produced, and just some of the things you can do. And as Coach Mitchell stated, I'm going to separate it because we are, she told me earlier we're on a time, kind of a tight time schedule because I understand the church has prayer tonight at 9 o'clock. Plus the talk about the sugar. After I got a better understanding from Coach Mitchell as to the purpose of this presentation, I really thought that it would help if I was able to add detoxing, sugar detoxing to the presentation. So that kind of adds a little more to it. So I'm going to separate that out and I'm going to talk about the sugar and flour in a follow-up session. So tonight we just really want to focus on ultra processed food. So let's get this thing going. So, we've all heard the term before, ultra processed foods, sometimes referred to as just UPFs. If you haven't heard them, it's a pretty good chance you participated or you've had them because we are surrounded by them. But I just want to go over how that classification came about first so we understand, where they fall as far as it relates to other foods. So, the classification came from what is known as the NOVA system classification. Now, NOVA is not an acronym because when you see it, if you research it, it always appears as if it's an acronym, but it's not. It's just called NOVA, and it was based off of a paper that was written like in the 70s, and then followed up with a research that occurred like 20 years later. So what the NOVA system classification does, it basically categorizes food into 4 different areas, 4 different classifications. You start out with the unprocessed and minimally processed foods. That's 1. Level 2 is the processed and culinary ingredients. The next one is processed foods, and then it's ultra processed foods. So,
hold on 1 minute.
yes. To really get an understanding of ultra processed foods. So, starting with the beginning is, unprocessed and minimally processed foods. That's one category. That's basically everything that's considered raw and natural. That's Mother Nature at its best. And that includes your fruits, your vegetables, your leaves, grains, nuts, roots, even includes animal, egg, milk, fungi, algae, all of those things. And even though some people, like if you're vegan, you don't eat animal or you don't eat dairy products, that's a different conversation. From this perspective, all that gets classified as unprocessed / minimally processed foods. And that's really what we want to eat most of, because it contains the fruits, the vegetables, and so forth. The next category is the processed culinary ingredients. That's the things like, our condiments, our oils, even animal fat like butter, sugar, syrup, and even honey and starch, because that's the minimally processed ingredient. Then you got your processed foods, and this is where you start venturing into the area that becomes kind of unhealthy. And all processed foods are is they're combining 2 or more ingredients from the other groups and then applying further processing. Could be anything where even cooking or smoking or even non-alcoholic fermentation is being applied to the food, right? Which then sort of knocks the food out of balance. Now, I don't know if any of you, if you're on a health and wellness journey, you may have read or heard someone say the best way to consume food is to consume it in its original form. That's why you have people out there who are raw vegan. They don't even cook food, their food. Because even when we cook it, most of the food, not all, but most of the food, we alter the chemical makeup of the food. So we're taking it out of its natural uh, form. In some foods, with some vegetables, actually cooking elevates the nutritional value. So, and if you cook it on high heat, it really now you're destroying your food. Now, I just want to have a conversation with people about health. I always say to them, you decide on how healthy you want to be, and that determines the path you follow. I don't judge people, or say, oh, well, what you're doing is wrong, unless that, unless you're saying, I want to do this, I want to be more vegan, and you do something, and I'm like, well, that doesn't fall into the category of being more vegan. You know? So it's really important for you to just first decide, do I want to become so healthy that I can compete, or I just want to become healthy, just so I can more or less practice preventive uh, illness. Because there are two different paths. So once you define where you want to go, that kind of then outlines, the things you should and should not do. Other than that, there's so much information out there. It's so easy for someone to say, oh, well, you shouldn't do that. Well, that's not true. You do what aligns with your journey. All right, so let's get back to the processed foods. As we move more into the processed and ultra processed, they increase the taste, the palatability, and even our cravings. And I just want you to know there is an actual role, you may have heard me say this on other platforms, there's an actual role in corporations, food companies, I should say, called craving consultants, where they actually, their job is to make the food, make you crave the food, make us crave it to the point where it becomes almost an addiction. Well, no, it does become,
It does become an addiction.
Yes. And this is, like I said, when I do the next session on sugar and flour, we'll go more into that. So when you have processed foods, they can be part of a meal, dishes, or they even can be consumed alone. Like, for instance, smoked nuts. How many people have had smoked nuts or salted meat? Now, we may eat those, and some of us may have grown up on those, but probably never knew that they were unhealthy. So, I know growing up, my father used to love to eat potted meat, or the little sausages in the can.
The vinea.
Yes, Vienna or something like that. Well, yeah, someone said smoked turkey. Yes. Anything smoked unhealthy. Might taste good, but it really is something that you do not want to eat on a regular basis.
And why is that, Coach? I know,
Vienna sausages. Thank you.
Vienna sausages, right? But I know for preservation purposes, historically, people have smoked meats to preserve them. But why is it unhealthy to consume smoked meats?
Because it's actually classified smoked meats along with processed meats, something that most of us grew up on, is classified as a carcinogen. Cancer causing. Now, I know most people will say, and this is just again for clarification, yes, Tiffany, and it's also very salty. Most of these things are very salty. Here's something that people will always say. Well, my grandmother grew up on, eating this, and she lived to be 95 years old. You got to get out of that mindset because health is not a one thing. Grandma just had a great attitude, a great philosophy on living. So, it changes everything. So, kind of keep that. Oh, you could have told me that. That's because I'm trying to hold this. And
I need to bring you a stand.
no, we're going to get through this tonight. Cool. All right. So as you mentioned to your health and wellness thing. Health and wellness is made up of many components. So you really don't want to focus on one thing. The other thing too, as a principle, is health is also bio-individualized. Have you said that before? Meaning everybody is different. What works for you, what doesn't work for you is totally different from someone else. So what you want to keep that in mind. There are some rules or principles that everyone should probably abide by. For instance, you know, nobody should smoke. You know? But we know people who smoke and live very long life. So, but you want to follow the principles.
But it inevitably catches up with you.
Yes, you will catch up. Mhm. All right, so you know what the processed foods are. Now, let's kind of just talk about the ultra processed foods. Those are the things that really are doing us in. Basically, ultra processed foods are more or less anything that's processed, preserved. You know what? Once it gets to that point, it's no longer considered a food. Any health and wellness professional, any good doctor will tell you to leave them alone. This is not just something that's being made up. This is being recommended for years. You know, it's considered unhealthy because it tends to be high energy, referred to as a high energy density and low micronutrients. Basically, usually a lot of sugar, which is where the energy will come from, or other refined ingredients, but there's usually no nutritional value in it. Yeah. Question.
No, I was just going to say you're referring to drinks like Red Bull, Gatorade.
Mm-hmm. And anything that you go to the supermarket, yeah, it's in the middle aisles, pretty much most of that is ultra processed foods. Mm-hmm. So you know, let's say if you're shopping, you want to shop the perimeter of your supermarket, because that's where most of your whole and natural foods are. So again, people may debate as to what they choose from those aisles. Like I said, some people don't eat meat, but that's incredible. That's again a different conversation. You start out with shop perimeter if you're trying to eat whole foods and stay away from plant-based foods. I'm sorry, or processed foods. Now, just want to interject this. Some people follow vegan, some people are vegetarian, and some people are whole food plant-based. Now, this is what I'm giving you my opinion. Right? I recommend doing whole food plant-based diet. Why is that? Because you could be vegan or vegetarian and still eat junk food. See, Oreo cookies may not have any animal products in it. So you can eat them because they could be vegan or vegetarian, but they're junk food.
It's full of homogenized fat.
Yes, in fact, you got sugar, you got refined foods. You want to, you know what? Kind of keep that in mind. When you do whole food plant-based, there are different uh, levels or different approaches to it. Some people who do whole food plant-based will still eat meat, but they keep it to a minimum. The key is you want to eat more whole foods than anything else. That's your fruits, your vegetables, your nuts, so forth and so on.
That's a question on the screen.
Oh, so is milk treat a safe replacement for adding something sugar? Yes. And I say yes in general terms, unless you really have a serious issue with the blood sugar levels. Here's where you have to be a little bit more mindful of even replacing sugar for fruit as a substitute. But normally as a rule of thumb, what we've all been taught about sugar from fruit has been wrong. I don't forget if I mentioned this before, but if you're familiar with the glycemic, glycemic index chart where it rates fruits, you know, in terms of the impact on your blood sugar level. Now there's another index that's even better, and it's called glycemic load because so you don't really enough caffeine for the drink. I'll come back to that in a second.
Yeah, I'll park your questions.
Okay.
You go ahead and finish that thought, and then
So-
I'll get the questions for you.
You want to look at the glycemic load more so than the glycemic index. Because the glycemic index will just look at the amount of carbs that will hit your bloodstream. But when it comes to fruit, fruit has fiber. Fiber slows down the absorption of carbs into the bloodstream. So, a classic example is watermelon is high on the glycemic index chart, but it's low on the glycemic load index because watermelon is mainly fiber and more. Mhm. And again, when you count the carbs, fiber always cancels out. The amount of fiber cancels out the carbs because the fiber doesn't get digested in the system the way the carbs do.
Right. And the next question is Dr. Simpson asked the question. She switched over. She's trying to eliminate the candy cookies and cakes. And she says she's been eating more nuts, but she prefers honey roasted. Is she defeating the purpose?
No, I won't say you're defeating the purpose, but you're not optimizing the change. The other thing too, right? So I had somebody else ask me, I can't share this with you, their thing was oatmeal raisin cookies.
Mm-hmm.
And they I guess everybody goes up. And this is my response. Again, I try to be more pragmatic and practical about your health and wellness. This is my recommendation to you. When you eat them, first of all, you want to look at the ingredients.
Bring your phone down your head appearing on the screen.
Yeah. You want to look at the ingredients to see if there's a whole lot of chemicals. All right. It's just a few ingredients. Move to the next qualification, which is, let's say, the next step. At that point, you want to limit the amount that you eat in one setting because it's still junk food. If it's high in sugar and flour, it's still really junk food. So you want to limit. So as I said to him, you don't want to sit down and eat a whole pack. And this really is about mindful eating because again, the food is being designed so we become addicted to it. That old saying way back from I think it was Lay's potato chip, you cannot eat just one. Well, that was a true statement. Mm-hmm. They knew then what was occurring. So to your question, the honey roasted, again, because it's roasted, it kind of takes away or limits the nutritional value. But it is still better than eating pure junk food. It's something very similar to, I get people now, about seeded versus, unseeded or no seeds produce, such as watermelon. And some people won't buy it, First of all, they're relying on misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
But come back to eating a watermelon with no seeds. It's not GMO, but eating a watermelon with no seeds is better than eating no watermelon.
Yep.
So, those fingers, you can't just eat one. That's straight up processed foods. So those are the kind of things you really want to stay away from, or at least limit.
Get your air fryer out and make your own chips.
Yes. Now, trust me, when I share this is not coming from a judgmental. I've been there. I'm still there. There's certain things where, and Pringles actually used to be one of them. I used to make potato chips. I took a whole stack of them and eat them. And you could go through a whole pan by myself, especially if I'm hungry. So I just learned, don't even go there.
Mm-hmm. The next question is, what is a natural caffeine food or drink?
You know what? if you try to stay away from coffee, because that really is the best, to my knowledge, the best caffeine uh, drink, then you have qualities of coffee. Now, coffee is also one of those foods that I tell people, depending on what you need, you may get a different perspective. You need something, and you know it's healthy. You need something else, and it's unhealthy. This is where I tell people you always need to factor in the context of your content when it comes to health, because things like coffee and eggs are two things that will get two different perspectives, you know, and they change. It's not going to change regularly. So always kind of figure out where they're coming from. So put in context to see that possible.
And what about this rise mushroom coffee that's
Oh, okay.
becoming is trending now? So
Yes.
what do you think about that? And if you've tried it or not?
I have not tried commercial. I do have a friend who, and he sometimes joins us here, Dr. Parchment. He tried it, and he is a huge believer. And he says it really boosted his energy level. Uh, it, and when I went, I actually looked to possibly buy some, and I realized I learned that there's so many varieties out there. It's not just one, which is Rise, I believe, was the one that is promoted a lot. So there's a whole lot of brands, and you kind of do the research. I ended up at that point in time making my own graduation because we had mushrooms. So I just dehydrated some mushrooms and then added to the coffee. And it was okay. So I have not tried, I actually purchased any to get a feel for it. But based on what I've read, it's a good alternative and it does give you the energy.
And mushrooms are good for you.
Yes.
So you're sort of balancing out the overload of coffee, just straight coffee and caffeine with the mushroom.
Yes. Now,
okay.
Just the coffee also is known, the coffee that we buy, non-organic coffee, is also one tends to contain a lot of mold that we don't see. So that gives, standard off-the-shelf coffee a bad,
it sort of ranks at the bottom. We're drinking the bottom tier of coffee that we purchase off the shelf.
Yes. And then I say bad rap. It's a true rap. So it's one of the drawbacks to being a big coffee drinker.
We're not getting quality beans.
No, we really are not.
All right. So the next one is, how long does it take for the sugar headaches to stop?
Oh, okay. That's when you're getting detox, and that's one of those things where it all depends on how bad you did, how bad was your habit.
Yeah. Mine usually take 2 days,
okay.
if that.
Yeah, it really it really depends on the person and how much sugar they were consuming. That's it. On the next session, I'll give you what I can notes and give you tips on how to do a good sugar detox.
Right. And the next question is the so-called natural alternative sweeteners. Can you have too much of those?
Oh yes, even with healthy sugar, you can always have too much. Your body will know how to process healthy sugars more so than refined sugars. That's one of the things I really want to point out with the ultra-processed foods. Why you want to eliminate them, or at least keep it to a minimum in your diet, because ultra-processed foods are basically synthetic ingredients. They're chemicals. The majority of the ingredients are chemicals. Even what was natural has been processed or modified, to either make the food taste better, to increase the shelf life, which are basically two main reasons. And there's usually some variation of the fat, the carbs, the carbs, and salt. And sometimes it's been modified out of this natural ingredient.
I will. Yeah.
So
Stop moving that phone.
I can't help it. I apologize for the phone movement. I had to join with my phone. I don't have a stand, so I'm holding it. And now start talking with your hands. The phone keeps moving. So I hope nobody feels like they're on the cruise right now. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay, so the next, someone, Tamara Sue made a point that they even have the chocolate mushroom for sleep now.
Okay.
So we see the trend, right?
Yes.
Now,
here's something, as a, again, just a rule of thumb person, when something becomes really commercialized, you're back to looking at the ingredients. And this is important when you start thinking about packaging that we say natural or healthy. All of these things, you really want to go back to looking at the ingredients.
Yeah. Next question: can you have too much sugar from fruit?
Yes, actually, yes, you can. And especially if you're insulin resistant or you have insulin sensitivity. Now, again, insulin resistant means that everything gets converted to sugar. Everything that we eat, we live off of basically glucose, and especially our brain, lives off glucose as well as fat. So when we hear things about sugar, we need to understand that we do need everything does get converted to sugar. It's really more or less how the body processes it, and goes back to my other point where you don't want to eat any junk food too much in one sitting because now your body just you're overloaded.
Mm-hmm.
And you can even do that with like fruits. One, if you're eating a lot of it and you're not moist. So we know it's not the fruit in and of itself that's a problem.
Right.
But if you're consuming a lot of it, and you're not moving, then you're not burning off any of that. And you basically get a backlog with your body trying to move the sugar into the cells.
Right. And next question is, they've been using agave and honey a lot lately. When they say pure, how pure are they?
Well, that's one of the things you got to look at. The label again, because the purity, it all depends on who's manufacturing. In its natural state, it's probably like
its purest form.
Yeah, if you can get your own plants and grow it, that's ideal.
Right. But I think as far as honey is concerned, just go to your local farmer's market. They usually source honey right from the hive and bottle it.
Yes.
So, and it's always best to buy honey locally.
Yes.
Because it helps with your immune system and allergies. Because it builds up, the honey itself has actually taken in the allergens, the pollen from the different plants. So when you ingest it, you're building your immune system to the environment.
So, that's a very good point. Then you want to buy your honey.
Yep. Next question is, not a big fan of dark chocolate, moving away from sugar, but want to improve blood flow and reduce inflammation. What are your thoughts?
Okay, you want to improve blood flow? Right. Now we're going into a health and wellness session. If you want to improve blood flow, one of the things you want to add to your diet is beets. You really want the nitric oxide, which basically is natural in beets.
Mm-hmm.
And that can occur, you can buy beet powder. You can also buy fresh beets and juice it. To your juices, but that is one thing. As far as inflammation, inflammation is a good segue because that goes back, ties into ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed foods, one of the things, the problem is it causes inflammation. Okay? Now, what is inflammation? Inflammation is basically your body is on fire internally. Okay? inflammation. If you're suffering from anything that ends in an itis, and I don't talk about the itis that we like to talk about when people eat too much or fall asleep, not that itis. Any kind of arthritis, you know, even if you look at the full range of a lot of diseases, even like diabetes, the proper name actually ends in itis. So anything with itis means it's inflammation. Inflammation in the body requires your attention. And it usually means you want to possibly definitely look at your diet. You want to move as much as possible. Those are like two important things, your diet and moving, to help you, and your diet should become more anti-inflammatory. Yep. Those are basically, there's a whole category of things you should eat that are anti-inflammatory, and they're basically your fruits and vegetables. Other things, you're going to have some nuts, certain things like so you're going to say pro-inflammatory things like sugar and flour. Those are two huge things that will trigger uh, inflammation in the body. And here's the thing with inflammation. It will show up, it's like, let's say water finds the least resistance. Inflammation will look for gaps in your body, and that's what it's going to attack. So it shows up in different diseases. Every chronic that we're dealing with now is due to inflammation in the body. It's just showing up differently. Here's the unfortunate part is that we go to the doctor, we could be suffering from 3 chronic diseases. We will get medicine for each one of those diseases, and none of them will deal with the inflammation. It will deal with the symptoms. So if you suffer from high blood pressure and diabetes, both of those are associated with inflammation. You'll get 2 different medications, and here's the other catch. Not only are they addressing the symptoms, but they're giving you more synthetic, something else synthetic to go into your body. You want to deal with inflammation, move more, follow a anti-inflammatory diet.
Right. You want to do a process of elimination from your diet. So moving right along because we're coming up on the hour. So any protein shake or powder supplements you recommend?
Wow. Back in my hardcore gym days, I was a big protein person. Lately, I've been really just trying different vegetable protein. I don't have a particular brand yet, but that's where I am now. And I'm not there to say give up the protein that use based off of beef protein. I'm not there yet, but I am now just trying different vegan or vegetables, say plant-based protein. If you've never done protein before, because there are different categories, especially when it comes to the standard whey protein, it's casein protein, it all depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to build muscle, there's even a whole technique of when you take your protein shake. At one point, I had this down to a science, but I would have to go back and put that together if you need a more definitive answer.
Just a comment there that Dr. Simpson made about, for anyone concerned about the high cost of food, the most inexpensive way to start your health and wellness journey or maintain it is to cook at home.
Yes, that is so true. That is one of the tips that I give to people. Again, first of all, when you start out, don't necessarily try to go from 0 to 100. Lots of people you want to start, you want to standardize, you want to optimize, and use strategies. Now, that for some people, if you have a serious health issue, you need to move faster. But if you're just trying to transition, you can kind of work into your lifestyle, because that's what you really want to do. You want to make it a lifestyle. Uh, Even if you're trying to lose weight, which I gotta get this in here, because a lot of people, dealing with weight issues, ultra processed foods, they trigger inflammation. Also, because your body does not recognize them, the ingredients, anything that your body does not recognize, it stores as fat. That's the way our body is designed. It's a protection mechanism. It doesn't, it's not going to send it through your entire system. It stores it as fat. Well, if you keep eating junk food, guess what happens? It keeps it stored as fat. That leads to obesity. Obesity in and of itself is inflammatory. Inflammation makes it difficult to lose weight. It becomes this vicious cycle that people get caught. And you need to, again, go back to the process of your life. You need to start removing things from your diet. And it's always good to start with the junk food. If you have other, some people say, I don't really eat a lot of junk food. You want to really look for things that you may be eating that come in a box, a package, that may have ingredients that basically are junk food ingredients, but you're not looking at it as junk food. It could be you're eating too much refined things like refined white rice, white flour, white like even pasta. Mm-hmm. Like pasta is one, it still is one of my weaknesses. So I have to look at it. So you want to begin looking at what you're consuming.
Right? Yep. And I think also we have time for. Let me see here.
You have a question you can here?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Ultra processed foods also impact your cognitive function. Known to cause mild depression and anxiety. And that might be nothing more than the result of the sugar crash. If you eat a lot of junk food, again, with sugar and flour, spiking your blood sugar levels, and then you're crashing, which can lead to a feeling of depression, or when you're in that high, it makes you feel anxious. One of the first things with anybody who have any kind of health issues, always look at your diet first. And it's unfortunate, and one of the things that I'll ask people, if they go to the doctor and the doctor prescribes a medication, I always ask them, did the doctor ask you to look at your diet? This is really important with children, especially when it comes to ultra processed foods, because kids are consuming so much of it. We're on average about 60 to 80% of the standard American diet is comprised of ultra processed foods, which is basically just junk food. Our bodies just are not meant for that. So it's good that you guys are on a detox, because you want to allow your body to kind of get rid of that junk. There's something else too about fasting. And this will be this organic session, but they're now proving that fasting can pretty much cure any disease. Fasting, not more medication, less food. Sometimes less is more. And this is not come from just health and wellness, come from medical journals. That fasting is now becoming more respected as a method of healing the body. And it makes sense, because when you fast, you go through this, your cells go through this thing called autophagy. But basically, it starts cleansing out all the dead cells and replacing the new ones. So that's why fasting your body to heal itself. It's, you know that your body can only be in two states: rest or digest. When it's in rest, it's in restore mode. And when you're resting, especially when we're sleeping, we're in detox mode. So the less we eat, the more opportunity our body has to heal itself. That's just the way we design.
Yep. Other question here. Best water to drink, alkaline, distilled, or spring?
I would probably go alkaline first. So you have to do a little research because in some of the groups that I belong to, people have posted things about water in particular, and somebody comes back and shows them the document about particular water.
Mm-hmm.
Every water, and I did not know this. One, I think I shared with you about the bottle cap on the water is indicative of something about the water.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive me because I don't remember the color, but I never really given it much thought. But the bottle cap color means something about the water. But the other thing that I did not know was every water company is supposed to have their, we call it specs,
Mm-hmm.
on their website. And there's where you can find out more information about the particular brand of water. So I would probably also, alkaline water because you want to try to maintain an alkaline diet because it's basically diseases cannot live in an alkaline body. So I found I haven't done this consistently, if you can combine alkaline water with coconut water, you kind of get the best of both worlds.
Okay. All right. And I think it's we're at 8:52.
Yes.
But I also think it's apropos to say that this has been a wonderful session, chock full of information, a lot of good tips, a lot of information, educational information on things that I didn't know. And I'm sure, those that are watching as well. But I can't wait for part two. But I think getting a jump start on the fast by getting the information beforehand on why we need to cut out certain things is going to be more beneficial to help us succeed as we take this journey. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that. Listen, I posted on the banner. If you've been blessed by this session, Coach Darren really gave us some really good nuggets tonight. His Cash App is on the screen. What are you laughing at? His Cash App is on the screen. Feel free to sow a seed. No amount is too small nor too great. So anyway, Coach, I'm gonna toss it back to you for some last minute comments. I'm about to head that way. So go right ahead. Yeah.
I just want to get this in. How can you spot ultra processed foods, right? Here's some quick things. You want to look at the label, right? And I have a list of ingredients that I don't have time to go through them, but pretty much if you see ingredients that are unrecognizable, that's a clue. If you see ingredients on a label that you don't find in your kitchen, that's another indication. If you see high content of sugar, sodium, or saturated fat, that's another. Something else to look at is your sell-by date. If the sell-by date is so far in the future, and the product is not in some kind of brine like olives, it's a pretty good chance that is, not a guarantee, but it's a pretty good chance that that's classified as ultra processed food. Instant foods pretty much always are ultra processed foods. And that's it. You ask yourself the question, if you look at the ingredients, can this food be cooked at home with the listed ingredients? Meaning, do you have these ingredients in your cabinet?
Yeah. Pastor Simpson said, "Why are beets so nasty?" I love the flavor, and I understand why it's off-putting to some because it does have an earthy,
Yes.
Very earthy taste, but very rich in nutrients and vitamins, as Coach Darren was saying. But if you cut it with carrot juice, and a little bit of lemon. Most of my juices I have to have lemon in it because I don't like a lot of sweets. I'm not a sweet person. I'm very savory. My palate is savory. But you cut that beet with some carrot juice and a little bit of lemon or lime, and trust me, I think you like it because it goes down real smooth. Or like Brother Andre, Awesome Dawson posted, roast beets, carrots with some rosemary and a little drizzle of honey.
Yes.
You have a
Yep.
great meal. So good.
Yeah. Here's the other thing too is you want to give your palate a chance to adjust. Now I did not like beets as a child. It used to taste like the inside of a can. It tastes like metal to me. As I got older, I learned to appreciate it. But even over the 2 period, basically all of our taste buds change. But a lot of times we don't change what we're eating, so we're like right back in terms of the flavors that we enjoy. We knew right back when we started. We have a mood, we have taste buds. So you want to give yourself a chance to try it over the 2 period, but give yourself a chance to activate to a different taste. And then, as uh, Andre pointed out, and make sure you don't mix it with something else, because then you still get the nutrients, but you really kind of hide the flavor. And again, beets are the number one uh, kind of vegetable if you're trying to open up your blood vessels, as well as movement.
Okay. Listen,
And
Coach Darren.
I do apologize for it was just getting started tonight. It was just one of those things that continued with me trying to hold this phone while I talk.
Yeah, everyone is thanking you. Excellent job. Dr. Simpson, she says, thank you. She's truly grateful because it aligns with the things that God has instructed her to do personally and that the fast will help. So, Cash App is in there. Listen, bless Coach Darren because he did an amazing job tonight. And he put this together just at our request. So, we thank you, Coach. We hope you got a lot of good nuggets out of this session. Join us for part 2 in 2 weeks.
And you probably go at this, before you probably go early.
Okay, we made 7 o'clock. Okay, so in 2 weeks, we'll come back with part 2 where you'll delve more into sugar. Okay. Sugar, flour, and detoxing. Put us closer to our start date for our fast. So it's been a great evening. Thank you so much, Coach. Coach, and thank you all for joining us tonight. So we'll see you at 9 for 9 p.m. prayer. But listen, if you don't start now, there can be no next. So go ahead, maximize the moments, get started on your health and wellness journey. I'm Coach Mitchell. See you next time.